Happy Super Bowl Sunday, everybody. We're going to talk about that. And wow, Joe Biden had what a week he had, right? What a week he had. We're going to talk about that and so much more today on Speechless. Hey, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning in to Speechless today on this Super Bowl Sunday. I really appreciate it. We got a lot we're going to talk about here, and I am live, so make sure that you get that comment section rolling in between different stories. I'll make sure to check in with you guys, see what's going on. Thank you all for joining, everyone. David, Maddie, even my adversaries, Progressive American. Thank you, John, Oklahoma Chicken Cam, and anybody else. Thank you guys so much for joining. I do appreciate it. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about any of the stories that we go into. And I did start a little bit earlier today than I usually do. If you guys like this time around 3-ish, 3:15, let me know in the comments because I usually go around 5:30, or even closer to 6 on Sundays. But given the fact that it is Super Bowl Sunday, I figured I'd go a little bit earlier. And given that it is Super Bowl Sunday, along with that, I wanted to start off with this story here, just breaking now. Donald Trump, former president of the United States, has posted about the Super Bowl, but not even just about the Super Bowl, about what we've all been talking about, which is Taylor Swift. And so if you don't watch much football, Taylor Swift is not a new player. Taylor Swift by no means is anybody that's particularly fast or really contributes anything to the game or sport of football. No, Taylor Swift is Travis Kelce, who is a Pfizer ambassador. She is a international pop star who has basically control over 1/5 of the United States and their voting habits, and she is taken up more screen time than the actual sport itself. Which, if that says anything about the ratings of the NFL, uh, it should. So Trump has posted about Taylor Swift, according to the Daily Wire, saying that her quote probably liberal boyfriend Travis Kelce um, has some things going on. But out of the Daily Wire, former President Donald Trump threw himself into the Super Bowl conversation today by saying there was, quote, no way singer-songwriter Taylor Swift, who is expected to appear at the big game featuring her NFL player boyfriend Travis Kelce, could endorse Joe Biden. In a post to Truth Social, Trump claimed that he had struck a chord with Swift in 2018 when he signed legislation into law that sought to close loopholes in digital royalty laws to help artists, producers, and others get paid for their work in the music industry. From Truth Social, Donald Trump said, quote, I signed and was responsible for the Music Modernization Act for Taylor Swift and all of the musical artists. Joe Biden didn't do anything for Taylor Swift and never will. There's no way she could endorse Crooked Joe, the worst and most corrupt president in the history of our country, and be disloyal to the men who made her so much money. Besides that, I like her boyfriend Travis, even though he may be a liberal and probably can't stand me. That's what he had to say. Trump quipped that there was no way Swift could endorse Biden, whom he described as corrupt. Some in MAGA's camp, Trump's MAGA camp, have speculated that Swift got into a relationship with Kelce, the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, as part of a political scheme or psychological operation. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I've covered it on this show before. I've talked about it. I want to know what you think. Is it a psyop? Is Taylor Swift? Is all that stuff just a psychological operation? I don't know. I'd like to think that I've stayed a little bit neutral on that topic. And so I'd like to know what you guys think. I'm not the biggest Taylor Swift fan, but is it a psyop? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. But Swift has yet to back any candidate in the 2024 contest, but she did endorse Biden in the run up to the 2020 election. So not 100% sure there. What I will say is I'm excited for these ads, and here's what I'm going to do. Not on this live stream, obviously, but I'm going to compile some of the advertisements that we see tonight and see exactly what's woke, what's not, and the trends that we're noticing in the business sphere. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because in the past, we have had some wildly woke advertising come out of not just the Super Bowl, but just out of businesses in general. And if there's ever a time for somebody to push an unnecessary political agenda, the most watched television event of the year might be the time to do so. People that we're going to want to keep an eye out for this Super Bowl would be Bud Light. Bud Light reeling after an awful year after having a man who pretends to be a woman become their new spokesperson, but recently starting to gain some traction as they allow Shane Gillis, an anti-woke comedian, to be their new spokesperson. What will they do for the Super Bowl? Who knows? What other ads will we see? What companies will go woke and thus potentially go broke? We'll look at that for the Super Bowl. I'll follow up with those things this week, maybe even some live streams. So to make sure that you don't miss a minute of any of this, guys, don't forget to like this channel, subscribe to the channel, to comment what you think consistently, to push this stuff up in the algorithm, and share this with your friends. And make sure you ring that notification bell, hit it to all, because we both know that ScrewTube will make it difficult for us to get these messages out there. So everybody, please do that. We're going to get into some other things. Some other stuff with Joe Biden and the Robert Hur controversy, but let's get into some of these comments here before I do that. I have done canvassing. That was when I got into politics when I was like 15, 16. That's like all I did. I did it basically until I was like a sophomore in college. So about 4 years where canvassing was like the majority of the political work I was doing. I've done a lot of canvassing in my life. I don't like it. It's not fun. It's a part of every political campaign. I still do it from time to time, but it's not the bulk of the political work I do anymore. Let's see what else we got going on here. Come on, Kev. Tell Taylor Swift special joke. Tell the Taylor Swift special joke. What are you talking about, Oklahoma Chicken Cam? I don't know what you're talking about. Okay. You almost got attacked. Well, that sucks. No one should get attacked for political canvassing, but if you get criticized, it's going to happen, especially if you canvass for a crap candidate like Qasim Rashid, who is just basically a neo-Marxist thug running to try to unseat Bill Foster, who is just a wishy-washy. He's basically the Liz Cheney of Democrats, but still, just bad people. I mean, and you have Qasim Rashid, communist. That's really what he is. But let's get into... No one should care what the satanic priestess thinks. Really? I don't know. I did see Demon Girl here. Thank you so much, Demon Girl. Make sure somebody lets Andrea know I am live right now. Andrea, where is she? I got to get her here. But let's get into some another story here. Let's get into Joe Biden, everybody. You might have seen, we covered it a little bit yesterday in my live stream. Joe Biden, this was actually, I'll start off with this. This was probably one of the best weeks for Trump since he launched his 2024 campaign. The Supreme Court basically said anybody who tries to kick any candidate off the ballot is an absolute idiot. And Joe Biden was provably responsible and guilty of the same crimes that Donald Trump is currently on trial for. However, Joe Biden is too stupid and old to actually get tried for them. A two-tier justice system we have, and a lot more. And so let's take a look and listen at what ultimately ended up being the worst press conference in the history of press conferences. And that's Joe Biden defending his memory in some of the most comedic ways possible. And as we're watching this, remember, everybody, this is the president of the United States. This is the president of the United States. This is the current person that half the country voted for. This is him. So let's take a look and a listen at Joe Biden right here. I need to adjust my screen. This is what happens when I produce my own show. Let's get it right there. Save. Update layout. Here we go. Okay, so you guys can all see it the way I meant to have it seen. Here we go. Let's take a look and a listen to Joe Biden having the worst press conference in the history of press conferences right here.
Comes released his findings today about their look into my handling of classified documents. I was pleased to see he reached a firm conclusion that no charges should be brought against me in this case. This was an exhaustive investigation going back more than 40 years, even into the 1970s when I was still a new United States Senator. The special counsel acknowledged I cooperated completely. I did not throw up any roadblocks. I sought no delays. In fact, I was so determined to give the special counsel what he needed, I went forward with a 5-hour in-person interview over 2 days on October the 8th and 9th of last year, even though Israel had just been attacked by Hamas on the 7th and I was very occupied. It was in the middle of handling an international crisis. I was especially pleased to see special counsel make clear the stark distinction and difference between this case and Mr. Trump's case.
Okay, so let's, before we even get into the distinction between, because I'm sure I'll fact check that, but let's start off with everything that he said so far. Joe Biden has basically just said so far, I'm very happy that they did this investigation. I'm very happy that they decided not to charge me with anything. And I did a lot of big interviews. 5 hours over the course of 2 days. 2 days has 48 hours in them. They usually say, I mean, it's usually assumed that the president of the United States sleeps very little in the entirety of his 4 years. Joe Biden, I don't think we can make that assumption because as we saw in this report and as we've consistently seen, he's on vacation more than he's at work. And he's just also a bumbling, babbling idiot. And he's a feeble old man. Like, let's be honest with ourselves. And so when we have all that, 5 hours over the course of 48 really isn't that many, especially when there was likely breaks. I mean, there absolutely was. Maybe at best he did 2.5 hours each side of these interviews for this investigation. That's really not that extensive. Go back to the Durham report for everything with Russia. You go back to pretty much anything that had to do with the Russian collusion hoax of 2016. Look how long those interviews were. Seriously. And make that comparison. The other thing that he mentions in here and that he acts like is that because he was forthright and because he was cooperative makes him any less guilty. I'm sorry, but if you're watching like the Gypsy Rose story, Gypsy Rose recently got released from prison. She was on trial years ago and was in prison because for second-degree murder in relation to killing her mom, and because she aided a boyfriend in doing so. Because it's a crazy story, but the point being is she was her boyfriend and her were at the time were relatively cooperative with the cops. Doesn't make you any less guilty of what you did. Now, I'm not saying Joe Biden is guilty of murder, but just because you're cooperative doesn't make you any less guilty. So I hate that kind of insinuation there. Let's keep going.
Special counsel wrote, and I quote, several material distinctions between Mr. Trump's case and Mr. Biden's are clear, continuing to quote, most notably, after given multiple chances to return classified documents to avoid prosecution, Mr. Trump allegedly did the opposite. According to the indictment, he not only refused to return the documents for many months, he also obstructed justice by enlisting others to destroy evidence and then to lie about it.
Again, so now this is all about Trump. It's all about Trump, and that's one of the differences you claim. However, the other thing, a key difference that I guarantee Joe Biden will not bring up, actually I know he will not bring up, is the fact that Donald Trump at the time or the documents in which he was in possession of were documents from the time of which he was president, which there are different rights granted to a president rather than a vice president, as the documents within Joe Biden's possession that he was being investigated for were of a time in which he was the vice president. Now, I don't know all the legal specifics, but I do know that the privileges granted to a president versus a vice president are clearly different, and Joe Biden will not recognize those. In fact, because according to the report from Robert Hur, Joe Biden couldn't even tell you when he was vice president. Keep listening.
In contrast, he went on to say Mr. Biden turned in classified documents to the National Archives and the Department of Justice, consented to the search of multiple locations, including his home, sat for a voluntary interview, and in other ways cooperated with the investigation, end of quote. I've seen the headlines since the report was released about my willful retention of documents. These assertions are not only misleading, they're just plain wrong. On page 215, if you had a chance, I know it's a thick document. On page 215, the report of the special counsel found the exact opposite. Here's what he wrote. There is, in fact, a shortage of evidence that I willfully retained classified materials related to Afghanistan. On page 12, the special counsel also wrote for another documents. The decision to decline criminal charges was straightforward. The evidence suggests that Mr. Biden did not willfully retain these documents. The evidence said I did not willfully retain these documents. In addition, I know there's some attention paid to some language in the report about.
Yeah, and so here's what he's about to get into is why was it not willful? And that's the thing, is why was it not willful? The reason, according to Robert Hur, that it was not willful is because he is not capable of knowing the difference between whether or not it was classified or when he was even vice president, is because he's just a feeble-minded old man for which we should all just feel sorry for. That's the narrative being spun here. Let's keep listening.
About my recollection of events. There's even reference that I don't remember when my son died. How in the hell dare he raise that? Frankly, when I was asked the question, I thought to myself, wasn't any of their damn business. Let me tell you something.
We got some Dark Brandon coming up right here. It's none of your damn business. Well, now here's the thing. So now the purpose of this press conference is, the entirety of it, is to address this report. He starts off on the relatively positive note for himself in the fact that, okay, well, I'm not getting charged. I've been found to not have necessarily willfully retained these documents. There are differences between me and Big Bad Orange Man. That's what he says so far. Those are all the positives he's listing. And now it's bad. Now he's unhappy. Why? Because they said that the reason why he couldn't actually have committed any crime is because he's too stupid and he's got a bad memory. And so then that's what the rest of this becomes about. That's the rest of it, all of it. The majority of this press conference, we are just about 3 minutes into it. And what this press conference quickly turns into is, let me prove to you my mental capacity. Let me prove to you my capability. Let me prove to you that I can remember things. And in his attempt to prove that, he does the exact opposite. And so remember, he starts off with, there's insinuation, an implication that I don't remember when my son died. Oh, so here's how Joe decides to attempt to disprove that.
Some of you have commented, I wear since the day he died, every single day, the rosary he got from Our Lady of. Every Memorial Day we hold a service.
Just trails off. There was no finish to that sentence. You patent idiot. There was no finish. There was no conclusion to that sentence. That he wears the rosary, that Bo got him. He wears it. He wears it, everybody. He wears the rosary. However, he can't even tell you where he got it from. He starts off, and this was a prop. This is something that he wears. This is something I guarantee you before he got out, his PR team says, hey, you're going to go out there. You're going to prove to them. You're going to come up with the most emotional part of what they say you can't remember, which is your son dying. You're going to appeal to the pathos. You're going to appeal to the pathos of the average viewer. And oh my gosh, they would insinuate that he doesn't remember when his son died? That's awful. And then you're going to prove them wrong by bringing out your rosary that you wear, and you're going to tell them exactly when and how and why Bo gave it to you. He goes, I got the rosary. My son gave me the rosary that he got from every Memorial Day. Like, what the heck? What the heck? You can't even complete the purpose of this press conference. And we are 3 minutes in. 3 minutes in. Keep listening.
Service, remembering him, attended by friends and family and the people who loved him. I don't need anyone to remind me when he passed away or passed away. Simple truth is, I sat for a 5-hour interview over 2 days of events going back 40 years. At the same time I was managing international crisis, their task was to make a decision about whether to move forward with charges in this case. That's their decision to make. That's the council's decision to make. That's his job. And they decided not to move forward. For any extraneous commentary, they don't know what they're talking about. It has no place in this report. The bottom line is the matter is now closed. And we can continue what I've always focused on, my job of being President of the United States of America. Now, thank you, and I'll take some questions.
So now he's got some questions coming up, and this is where it gets really spicy, because we have the 4-minute statement in which he already proved that he has a bad memory, and now we get to see good old Grandpa President Grandpa. That's what I'm going to start calling him, President Grandpa. President Grandpa is now going to just show us how mentally competent he is, and maybe even try his hand at stand-up comedy. Yeah, we're going to see this. Let's all check out. Let's all check in on good old President Grandpa.
Something the special counsel said in his report is that one of the reasons you were not charged is because, in his description, you are a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I'm well-meaning, and I'm an elderly man, and I know what the hell I'm doing. I've been president. I put this country back on its feet. I don't need his recommendation. It's totally out.
How bad is your memory?
How bad is your memory? What a question. Peter Ducey. It's Peter Ducey from Fox, everybody. Absolutely killing it.
Can you continue as president?
My memory is so bad, I let you speak. That's
your memory has gotten worse, Mr.
No.
President.
So he attempts to just make a joke there, and that's what he's trying to show. Oh, I'm quick. It was not very funny at all. My memory is so bad that I let you speak. I'm sorry, this is not the time for a joke, Joe. People are genuinely worried about that, I'm sure. And he got lucky that another reporter steps in and that asks whether or not his memory has declined at all. And so let's take a look and listen at that.
That's
Your memory has gotten worse, Mr.
No.
President.
my memory is not good. My memory is fine. My memory, take a look at what I've done since I become president. None of you thought I could pass any of the things I got passed. How'd that happen? I guess I just forgot what was going on.
Mr. President.
Voters have concerns about your age. How are you going to assuage them? And do you fear that this report is only going to fuel further concerns about your age?
So again, this question that's being asked right now is about saying voters have concerns about your age. This is not like anything new. Voters have had concerns about his age. It's happened for quite a while. Keep listening.
Only by some of you.
Mr. President, cleared up criminal liability today. Do you take responsibility for at least being careless with classified material?
I take responsibility for not having seen exactly what my staff was doing. It goes in and points out things that appeared in my garage, things that came out of my home, things that were moved not by me, but my staff.
So he was talking, if you couldn't actually understand what he was saying, because it seemed like he was going into an elderly episode, he basically was asked, will you take responsibility for being careless with classified documents? And then he says, I will take responsibility for not knowing what my staff was doing. So once again, a lack of accountability. These documents were not in his staff's garage. No, they were in his garage. These documents were not in his staff's office. They were in his pen office. These documents, even, in fact, there's even there's evidence from his ghostwriter, where his ghostwriter says, he flat out told me these were classified documents that he's not supposed to have. He admitted to it. He admitted to it. He pled guilty in the court of the public eye. But yet the reason why he's not getting charged, there's two reasons. Liberal privilege, and because he's a feeble old man. Let's keep going with this. It only gets better, or worse for him. Better for us as entertainment.
Mr. President, for months when you were asked about your age, you would respond with the words, watch me. Many American people have been watching, and they have expressed concerns about your age.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the press.
They expressed concerns about your mental.
That is your judgment. That is your judgment. That is not the judgment of the idiot. In fact, actually, according to the Daily Wire, 86% of Americans say Biden is too old for another term. Concerns about President Joe Biden's age while he seeks re-election appear to be escalating with the release of a new survey that followed the special counsel report that we're just talking about right now. 86% of adults said Biden, who is 81, is too old to serve a second term in the White House, according to the Ipsos poll unveiled today. ABC News, which reported on the results, noted the number is a double-digit jump from its September poll, with the Washington Post that found 74% of Americans said that Biden was too old. And so when Biden is in this press conference saying, that is your judgment, no, it's the Americans' judgment. It's the American people's judgment. Back in September, you had almost basically 3/4 of the country that said, you're too old to be in office. And so if it's 3/4 of the country, that means at least half of those, at least half of the people that voted for you also believe you're too old to be in office. This is not a policy thing. This is not liberal conservative. This is not Democrat Republican. This is, what do we want? What are the genuine qualifications? Look, there's qualifications statistically, or not statistically, constitutionally. There are constitutional qualifications to be president. But we as voters can hold higher standards. We as voters can have higher standards. That for who we're going to have in office. We don't need to say that it needs to be somebody who just is over the age of 35, 36, and it needs to be somebody who hasn't already served 2 terms before. It needs to be a United States. No, we could say we want somebody who is mentally competent and can pass a competency test. And I have some concerns about Trump too. Like, there's other people that, look, Trump by no means is of his top faculties. But there's a difference between a man who goes out and does like 3 campaign rallies a day, seems to be up all the time, is always posting on social media, somebody who might have a gaffe here and there, but has the wherewithal of like somebody in their early 60s when they're almost 80. There's a difference between that and what Joe Biden is, who can't even get through 6 minutes of a press conference without bumbling and forgetting, and proving even further that the concern for his age and his well-being. And also remember that Eastern time, this press conference was happening at just about 8 p.m. 8 p.m. It wasn't happening at 1 a.m. or midnight or even 10 p.m. This was happening at a time that's pretty common for a president to be able to speak. Let's keep listening.
Acuity, they say that you are too old. Mr. President, in December, you told me that you believe there are many other Democrats who could defeat Donald Trump. So why does it have to be you now? What is your answer to that question?
Because I'm the most qualified person in this country to be president of the United States and finish the job I started.
I would disagree with that.
Do you believe that, guys? Why are you confusing the names of world leaders?
Thank you, everyone.
I did not share classified information. I did not share it.
Now, that's a flat out lie, because in the report, there are direct quotes from Joe Biden that say, I did do that. So, I mean, maybe it's just the fact that he's got such a bad memory, and he's also forgetting that his purpose to be out there right now is to show that he doesn't have a bad memory. Maybe he's not lying. Maybe he genuinely believes he didn't do that. But at one point, he flat out said he did. So, just President Grandpa showing his age, everybody. This is like Abe Simpson in The Simpsons. He just is like, I would have back in my day, I just didn't. Like, doesn't even flipping know where he is half the time. That's what Demon Girl said. Do you think he knows where he is? Probably not. Probably not. 6 minutes and 18 seconds in, and he shows that he doesn't know a damn thing.
With my ghostwriter, I did not. Guarantee you did not.
But the special counsel said in the
no,
report
they
that
did not say that.
Okay.
He did not say
Yes,
that.
they
But Mr.
did.
President,
Yes, they did. You
Answer
idiot.
your
They
question.
did. Absolutely.
The fact of the matter is, what I didn't want repeated, I didn't want him to know, and I didn't read it to him, was I had written a long memorandum to President Obama why we should not be in Afghanistan. And I was of multiple pages. And so what I was referring to, I said classified. I should have said it should be private, because it was a contact between the president and the vice president as to what was going on. That's what it is referring to. It was not classified information in that document. That was not classified.
You can hear in the background too. You can hear his staff going, "Thank you so much. We're done. We're done." They're trying. They're like, "No, please stop talking. Please stop talking, Joe. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop." And he just will not stop. He will not stop.
He called on me. When you look back at this incident, is there anything you would do differently now? And do you think that a special prosecutor should have been appointed in the first place in both of these cases?
First of all, what I would have done is oversee the transfer of the material that was in my office, in my offices. I should have done that. If I go back, I didn't have the responsibility to that. That was my staff was supposed to do that, and they referenced that in the report. And my staff did not do it in the way that, for example,
It's all my staff's fault. No accountability, a consistent, progressive, and honestly, most politician trademark, honestly, is it's never my fault. It's somebody in my staff's. It's never my fault. Okay, Joe.
I didn't know how half the boxes got in my garage until I found out staff gathered them up, put them together, and took them to the garage in my home. And all the stuff that was in my home was in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. It was in my house.
That's also false. We literally saw pictures of them in the old posts of him driving his old Corvette, and we could see the documents in that post in his garage. They were not in all these locked cabinets. They were not well kept. No. They were easily seeable from outside of your garage, but okay.
It wasn't out in, like in Mar-a-Lago in a public place where, and none of it was high classified. Didn't have any of that red stuff on it. You know what I mean? Around the corners? None of that. And so I wish I had paid more attention to how the documents were being moved and where. I thought they were being moved to the archives. I thought all of it was being moved. That's what I thought. Now, what was the last part of your question?
Whether a special counsel should have been.
Did you notice that? Did you notice that? Look, I don't usually blame somebody for asking for clarification on a question, but once again, when the entire purpose of this press conference is to note that you have mental competency and that you have a good memory, and then you forget half the question that was just asked of you 30 seconds before, it's not a good look. And I don't usually blame somebody for that. Because I've had questions where I'm like, oh man, like I got into a rant and I forget the other half of it. But at this moment, not a good look.
Appointed in this case and in the case of your rival president, former president?
I think a special counsel should have been appointed. And the reason I think a special counsel should have been appointed is because I did not want to be in a position that they looked at Trump and weren't going to look at me, just like they looked at the vice president. And the fact is they made a firm conclusion. I did not break the law, period. Thank you all very, very much.
They actually didn't totally say that you didn't break the law. They did say that they just said that they didn't recommend you be charged. So just a good clarification there. It looks like he's about to wrap up, but this video still has some more time. Let's take a look. He's leaving. And now, right now, real quick, guys, I'm going to do a quick impression of what his PR team is thinking. As this goes, let's start from here. And as you watch me, this is how his PR team is reacting while this is happening live. I guarantee you this is exactly how it went.
Thank you all very, very much.
My God, thank God, everybody. God, try to work with this. All you gotta do, get out of the no. Don't stop. No, don't listen. Oh my God. Why does he have to get back out there? No, now he's going back to the mic.
I'm of the view.
Bad idea.
You know, that.
Bad idea. And now this is round 2. Oh my God, practically a KO in the first round. And now he's coming back and he's like, oh man, thank you, sir. May I have another? Spank me more. Beat my butt. That's basically what he's saying right now. He's like, he could have left. He could have left and it would have been like, man, that was bad, but let's do some cleanup. No. Round 2, everybody.
The conduct of the response in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, has been over the top.
Okay, and so the other thing to remember as we're going him now talking about Gaza and Israel, Palestine, all that conflict, is that this is what he said. He said the reason why it was he made excuses. The reason why that it might have seemed that he had a poor memory, and that's why they said that, is because he went back 40 years and he sat down for 5 hours over the course of 2 days, in which at the same time he was also having to deal with the Israel-Palestine conflict and what was going on overseas. And so, if that's also what he was dealing with, he should have a very good knowledge and memory of everything that's going on there right now and be able to answer these questions quickly and with wit. But I don't think that's the way it's going to go, because that's not who Joe Biden is at this current state. Let's listen.
I think that, as you know, initially, the president of Mexico, Sisi, did not want to open up the gate to allow humanitarian material to get in. I talked to him.
Wait, the president of Mexico? Why is the president of... Look, and as somebody on Twitter said, in an expert, he just literally... So here's, if you guys didn't catch it, he confused the president of Egypt with the president of Mexico. Once again, in the press conference where he's supposed to be proving his mental competency and mental fitness, and also using Israel and Palestine, that conflict, as an excuse for why his memory wasn't the best in everything over his interviews. So, oh my God, it continues to get worse and worse. And as somebody expertly pointed out on Twitter, denial is not just a river in Mexico, because that seems to be what Biden thinks. And the funny thing is that so he mistakes Gaza and the Gaza border with Egypt with Mexico. The difference is that Gaza and Egypt's border closed off. America and Mexico's border, not so much, Joe. Let's keep going.
I convinced him to open the gate. I talked to Bibi to open the gate on the Israeli side. I've been pushing really hard to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza. There are a lot of innocent people who are starving, a lot of innocent people who are in trouble and dying, and it's got to stop, number one. Number two, I was also in a position that I'm the guy that made the case that we have to do much more to increase the amount of material going in, including fuel, including other items. I've been on the phone with the Qataris, I've been on the phone with the Egyptians, I've been on the phone with the Saudis to get as much aid as we possibly can into Gaza. There are innocent people, innocent women and children who are also in badly in need of help. And so that's what we're pushing. And I'm pushing very hard now to deal with this hostage ceasefire, because I've been working tirelessly in this deal. How can I say this without revealing it? To lead to a sustained pause in the fighting, in the actions taking place in the Gaza Strip. And because I think if we could get the delay for that, the initial delay, I think that we would be able to extend that so that we could increase the prospect that this fighting in Gaza changes. There's also negotiations. You may recall, in the very beginning, right before Hamas attacked, I was in contact with the Saudis and others to work out a deal where they would recognize Israel's right to exist, make them part of the Middle East, recognize them fully in return for certain things that the United States would commit to do. And the commitment that we were proposed to do related to two items. I'm not going to go in detail, but one of them was to deal with the protection against their arch enemy to the northwest, northeast, I should say. The second one, by providing ammunition and material for them to defend themselves. Coincidentally, that's the time frame when this broke out. I have no proof what I'm about to say, but it's not unreasonable to suspect that the Hamas understood what was about to take place and wanted to break it up before it happened.
Basically a whole lot of nothing, besides forgetting.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to need everybody to hold for a moment.
Now they're just shutting them all up, and he's like, get him out of here, get him out of here, get him out of here. It was awful. And here's the thing. This is nothing new. Like, the saddest thing is that this is a person that people elected when well over a decade ago, people knew that rambling Joe Biden wasn't all there. And so we can even look at this amazing, my opinion, amazing comedy clip from Robin Williams in 2009 from his, and I will say, I believe that there's harsh language in this. If you watch this show, you know that there's going to probably be some harsh language, but take a look and listen at Robin Williams from 2009 talking about rambling Joe Biden. Here's that. Let me make sure it's unmuted. Here we go.
But now we still have comedy, though. We still have great comedy out there. There's always rambling Joe Biden. What the fuck? Joe says shit that even people with Tourette's go, no. No. What is going on? Joe is like her uncle who's on a new drug and hasn't got the dosage right. I'm proud to work with Barack America. He's not a superhero, you idiot. Come here. When FDR was on television, there was no TV back then. Come here, Joe. Sit down.
Yeah, Joe has been senile for that long, and people will claim that it's all just about that. It's, oh my God, Joe is just has a bad, or Joe has a stutter. It's a stutter. That's what the left will claim, is that no, it's just Joe's stutter. No, Joe is an 80-year-old man. He's been aging for quite some time. Think about it. Even back in 2009, he was in his mid 60s, almost late 60s. Like, this is a man who has consistently been showing his age for quite a while. And I have some other things I want to talk about, but I also want to point out how the media and everybody behind Joe Biden will consistently try to defend Joe Biden, not even just like being like, oh yes, he's an old man. No, they will go as far as saying that gaslighting us. Really, that's what they're doing, is they're gaslighting us. Just on Friday, Peter Doocy followed up in his line of questioning with Karine Jean-Pierre, who we know is the French lady who is the White House press secretary, the first Black French White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. And Peter Doocy says, how is it that we let this person have the nuclear codes? And here's what she has to say. Listen.
How can he be trusted with the nuclear codes if I get that you're saying that nobody in the building would say that he's got an issue with his memory, but just a little part of what we get to see, he's made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake on camera this week.
So I'm going to be very clear here. The reality is that report, that part of the report, does not live in reality. It just doesn't.
So the
It doesn't live in reality. Remember that. Keep listening.
special counsel is lying about the president's memory.
It was gratuitous. You heard from Ian Sams, my colleague. It is unacceptable, and it does not live in reality. That is just the facts.
It doesn't live in reality. The special counsel, well, then somebody really, here's the thing is, so let's do a few things here. Let's do a thought exercise, everybody. Everybody, let's go and consider this. Consider this as a thought exercise, okay? If that doesn't live in reality, then somebody needs to be fired and another investigation needs to happen. Why? Why? Because that means we just spent a lot of money to have a special counsel that apparently just lied and made shit up and just made it all up. It didn't actually happen. It doesn't live in reality. Also, what gives you the right to pick and choose what part of this is real? They'll take the part and they'll accept the part that says that Joe Biden is innocent and Joe Biden doesn't need to get charged with anything. Oh, but the part that says that he's a feeble-minded idiot, that he's practically in hospice for dementia, that part doesn't live in reality. Here's the facts, everybody. Here's the actual facts that Karine Jean-Pierre won't tell you. Is because of a certain level of hatred and lies pushed by the left, we have elected a dementia-ridden policy idiot, personal idiot, just a person who does not know where he is. And some will say, like I see in the comments, some will say that, oh, well, I feel bad for him. I don't anymore. Part of me at one point would have. I would have said it's sad that people would keep pushing him and keep encouraging him. But when you have a man who has absolutely screwed us in Afghanistan, has pushed significant dollars of yours and mine to Ukraine, to Israel, for losing wars, and also peddled and encouraged the LGBT crap from the White House, hung the pride flag at the same height as the American, both figuratively and literally. I don't feel bad for this man. I don't. Because a true leader, a person who would have led from the beginning, even 40 years ago when they got into government, would be able to stand up there and say, I don't care what everybody else is telling me. I know I'm not all there. And I know it's not best for the country for me to still be here. A true leader in Joe Biden's position right now would say the only reason why I'm staying in office is to make sure Kamala Harris doesn't get there. That is the only way that Joe Biden would actually gain any respect from me. And I would feel bad for him. Is that if he recognizes that he is not the best man for the job, that he probably shouldn't be there. But he knows that even a dementia-ridden idiot is better than Kamala Harris. That's the way I see it. Let's see what some of these comments are. I see Uncle Tom was here. I don't know if you're still here, Uncle Tom, but thank you so much for checking this out. Make sure to share it. I really appreciate you. Let's get some stuff going. Reach out to me, everybody, but especially Uncle Tom. Let's do something soon together. I'll put my email on screen, speechlesskp@gmail.com. I always am open to pretty much anything, any kind of collaboration. And so let me know. Everybody, don't forget, if you're just tuning in, to like, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff. My green screen in that corner is getting a little messed up, but don't worry. I'll fix this up right here. I'll make it myself all pretty for you guys. Here we go. Because I got some other stories to cover before the Super Bowl starts in just over an hour. I know I've already been going for 50 minutes and only covered like 2 stories, but that one is one that I was so passionate about because our President Grandpa, is an idiot. President Grandpa doesn't know where he is. That's who he is. President Grandpa doesn't know where he is. But yes, everybody reach out to me, speechlesskp@gmail. If you want to support the show, help it so that I can get bigger and better every single day and keep doing more. Make sure that you support the show. Venmo, Cash App is the best way. I also know that some people have even become members to the channel. I know Patty is one, Megan is another. You guys can become members to this channel, and I would appreciate it if you do. As my membership continues to grow, I will start doing members exclusive content and things like that. Currently offers to the membership is you can get emojis that are like my face. Like I have one where I'm flicking everybody off and I'm sassy and stuff like that. So yeah, so that'd be great stuff. Willie D, thanks so much for joining. Let's get into this next story, everybody. Keep the comments coming. Let's see what else actually real quick for some of these. It probably is that Hunter said the information he found in the garage to the Chinese. They repaid him by paying high prices for his shitty artwork. Absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised even a little bit. Keep the comment section rolling, guys, though. I would appreciate that. And no matter where you guys are, make sure to find Kevin Phares, KevinPhares, or Speechless Kev, on every single social media platform. That's YouTube, TikTok, X, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter. Well, Twitter is X, Rumble, everything. Speechless Kev. You guys can find me. Make sure you go follow, like, subscribe, share, whatever it is, all that fun stuff, because we got to keep getting these messages out here. But now I got another story for you guys. Now, here's the thing. We'll have our president that's not even able to get through 12 minutes without making an absolute fool of himself. However, in Russia, their dictator, president, whatever you want to call him, will be able to give you a 30-minute rant, almost as if he's like an autistic person. You just asked about every train ever, about Russian history and the Ukraine war. I'm not going to talk about every single part of Tucker's interview with Vladimir Putin, but I want to talk about how America responded to it. Not America, you and me. I want to talk about America, the media. So let's start off with just this announcement that Tucker made, that he was having an interview with President Putin. Take a look and a listen to this clip right here.
And yet the populations of the English-speaking countries seem mostly unaware. They think that nothing has really changed. And they think that because no one has told them the truth. Their media outlets are corrupt. They lie to their readers and viewers. And they do that mostly by omission. For example, since the day the war in Ukraine began, American media outlets have spoken to scores of people from Ukraine, and they've done scores of interviews with Ukrainian President Zelensky. We ourselves have put in a request for an interview with Zelensky, and we hope he accepts. But the interviews he's already done in the United States are not traditional interviews. They are fawning pep sessions specifically designed to amplify Zelensky's demand that the U.S. enter more deeply into a war in Eastern Europe and pay for it. That is not journalism. It is government propaganda. Propaganda of the ugliest kind, the kind that kills people. Americans have a right to know all they can about a war they're implicated in, and we have the right to tell them about it because we are Americans too. Freedom of speech is our birthright. We were born with the right to say what we believe. That right cannot be taken away no matter who is in the White House.
So Tucker makes it clear that the reason he is going over there, and even if you watch that full introduction to the fact that he was doing this interview, you will hear Tucker say, this isn't because he by any means agrees with Putin. This isn't because he thinks Putin is a great guy or that Putin is somebody he wants for everybody to hear in terms of in a positive light. No, he's doing it because we've seen the American media fawn over, not even just the American media, we've seen American politicians fawn over Zelensky as if he's some like Superman, Batman, Iron Man hero. But we haven't even understood the other side. And I recommend everybody go watch. I mean, it can get boring. I'm not going to lie. I watched the 2-hour interview between Putin and Tucker. I watched it throughout multiple sittings. And there's things that I found Putin to say that I'm like, man, that's interesting. But at the same time, then Putin would say that he thinks China is amicable and wants to compromise with people, which by no means do I agree with. And I think that's the problem. And we're going to talk about that problem, but we're going to first talk about this problem, which is the fact that as soon as Tucker announced in the last week that he was going to be doing an interview with Tucker, that Tucker said he was going to be doing an interview with Putin, the American media comes out and says, oh my gosh, this is so awful. Tucker Carlson is going to be a shill for Putin. That there was many, even on Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, that saying that he should be barred from re-entering the United States, that he's pushing propaganda, that he is a terrible person, and for even engaging with the devil that is Putin. Really? Tucker Carlson is terrible, apparently, for engaging the devil that is Vladimir Putin. However, several decades ago, it was like at least 2 decades ago around, when Barbara Walters interviews Putin, it wasn't an issue. Take a look at this clip.
He is only the second elected president of the new Russian Federation. Boris Yeltsin was the first. Putin's administration is committed to massive changes in the way Russia is governed, does business, and deals with the outside world. Putin is now one of the most powerful men in the world, but he is little known in America. He and President Bush seem to have connected with each other in ways that surprise most pundits, and may have surprised them as well. President Putin has been preparing for next week's summit meeting in his Kremlin office, where I met with him before our interview. It's my great privilege.
Nice to meet you.
So Barbara Walters meets with him. She's not a spreader of propaganda. No, she's just doing what her job is as a journalist. Tucker Carlson, as he says, is over there. As the American media fawns over the pornographer and actor Volodymyr Zelensky, we're not allowed to ask questions of Vladimir Putin or at least hear what he has to say. And when they're not trying to say that Tucker's an awful person for interviewing him, they're also admitting that Tucker did what they couldn't. Take a look at this clip from CNN in which they're obviously very mad that Tucker Carlson was able to get an interview when they weren't. Take a look and listen at this.
That's a lie. Serious news outlets, including CNN, have requested Putin to interview over and over again.
No, but they never got one. And so they're obviously, maybe that's the reason it is. Maybe they're just simply butthurt that they weren't able to get an interview. Hillary Clinton reacted to this, and while once again the American media will fawn over Zelensky and will be okay if the mainstream decides to interview the one of the most influential world leaders at the current moment, they will have a problem if a conservative or somebody who has been known as more of a conservative thought leader will take interest in the situation. This is Hillary Clinton going viral with her take on the Putin interview with Tucker Carlson.
I mean, he's like a puppy dog. You know, he somehow has, after having been fired from so many outlets in the United States, I would not be surprised if he emerges with a contract with an outlet, because he is a useful idiot. He says things that are not true. He parrots Vladimir Putin's pack of lies about Ukraine. So I don't see why Putin wouldn't give him an interview, because through him, he can, continue to lie about what his, objectives are in Ukraine and what he expects to see happen.
I want to hear what the rest of what Hillary has to say. Oh, I don't really, but I think it's important that we hear the rest of what Hillary has to say. But I also want to point out the fact that when she wants to try to discredit him by saying that he's been fired from a number of news outlets. One, a firing doesn't necessarily mean that he did something wrong. It could more so mean that he's doing something right. Let's just start off with that. I actually had the opportunity just 2 days ago to meet with Senator John Kennedy at an event I was at in Illinois. And John Kennedy out of Louisiana, one thing he said in his keynote speech at the event I was at is that he doesn't have a problem pissing people off as long as it's the right people. And that seems to be what Tucker does. Simply engaging with somebody obviously pisses off a lot of people, like Hillary Clinton. Maybe it's the right people. Let's finish this part off.
It's really quite sad that not just somebody like Tucker Carlson, who has, as I said, been fired so many times because he seems unable to, correlate his reporting with the truth, but also because it's a sign that there are people in this country right now who are like a fifth column for Vladimir Putin. And why? I don't know. I mean, why are certain Republicans throwing their lot in? Why are, other Americans basically believing Putin? Why did Trump believe Putin more than our 11 intelligence agencies?
I don't know. Do you have a working theory?
I do have a working
Oh,
theory.
isn't that crazy how that host? Here's the difference. You want to know the difference between Tucker Carlson and this MSBS or MSDNC BS? It's a lot of letters there. It might as well be the alphabet mafia right there. But no, you want to know the difference is that Tucker Carlson in that interview wouldn't have shown nearly as much of his favorability to Hillary Clinton as this reporter obviously did. No, he wouldn't. And then you also have people after the interview takes place. Once again, they're mad at Tucker for doing the interview. They're mad that he's engaging with Putin. They're PO'd that he has a platform with him at all. Then you have Hillary, who calls him a useful idiot when it's obvious that she also is just mad that anybody's giving Putin any level of a voice to counter the propaganda that we get, the pro-Ukrainian propaganda that we get. And by no means am I supporting Russia in any of this. But the fact of the matter is when we have a government that is saying we need to give all of our money to Ukraine, Ukraine's on the right side, and we don't even get to hear Russia out, man, it sounds like I'm more inclined to not believe anybody. But then you have Chris Wallace, this absolute shill, former Fox host, who is now working for, I believe, CNN. And this is what he had to say yesterday in regards to this interview. And he is obviously kind of bending over to suck himself off for this. Sorry if that's too graphic for anybody out there, but I'm just getting a little PO'd about this. Take a look and listen at Chris Wallace being very favorable to himself and going a step further than Hillary Clinton in this one.
Tucker Carlson showed up in Moscow this week to interview Vladimir Putin. It turned out to be anything but an interview. Putin droned on for 2 hours and 7 minutes, while Tucker sat there like an eager puppy. Occasionally, but rarely, he got in a question, like this one about the power of the deep state in Washington.
It sounds like you're describing a system that's not run by the people who are elected in your telling.
That's right. That's right.
But more telling than what Tucker asked is what he didn't ask. Nothing about why Putin invaded a sovereign country. Nothing about targeting civilians.
That was actually, if you actually watch the interview, like the first question Tucker asked was, why? Why are we in this war right now? And Putin decided to go on a 30+ minute rant about the history of Russia and Ukraine, where Ukraine came from, everything from his perspective. So, okay, lie more, Chris Wallace. Let's hear you lie more.
Nothing about Russian war crimes. A reporter can ask Putin a tough question if he wants a real interview. Why is it that so many of the people that oppose Vladimir Putin end up dead or close to it? But apparently, that's not why Tucker went to Moscow. During the Cold War, gullible Westerners who spread Soviet propaganda were dismissed as useful idiots. But calling Tucker that is unfair to useful idiots. No, he's made a cynical decision to chase MAGA's affection for dictators. And what better way to cash in than Putin's Kremlin?
So this is what the mainstream media will do. This is they'll parrot. So here's the funny thing is, so they'll tell you, this is what the mainstream media will do. They'll tell you that the only reason why Tucker is going over there is to be a puppy dog. And that's what both Hillary and Chris Wallace said. Like Oklahoma Chicken said, what is their obsession with puppies? Why is it all about, I think they actually secretly have a crush on Tucker. They think he's a cutie, and that's why they keep calling him a puppy dog. But so, and then they'll talk about him being a useful idiot, saying that he's just parroting the Russian propaganda. Now, once again, I am not going to be a shill for Russia. I don't think Putin's right in a lot of what he said in his interview. I also heavily disagree with a lot of things from Volodymyr Zelensky. But if, which I don't agree with this, but if Tucker is a parrot for Russian propaganda, then what are you, Chris Wallace, who uses the exact same language and pushes the exact same narrative as Hillary Clinton? If Tucker, even if not, it doesn't even need to be. Tucker, if in your eyes, Chris Wallace, Tucker is a parrot for Russian intelligence, then you, by all means and by all definitions, are a parrot for the DNC and their propaganda and the leftist progressive propaganda. That's what you are as a part of the mainstream media. And I don't even see Tucker as, Tucker even said he doesn't agree with everything Putin said. He pushed back on Putin in multiple ways. They took 30 seconds out of a 2-hour interview for Chris Wallace's segment. But okay, not to mention the fact that they'll keep trying to hit Tucker for getting fired from the mainstream media when now Tucker does better ratings in one interview than Fox ever does in a single day. Like, okay, everybody. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. But here's the bigger stories when it comes to all this. There's now potential sanctions on Tucker Carlson. Carlson's work in Russia could see the former Fox News host in hot water with the European Union. Guy Verhofstadt, I can't even pronounce it because he's the former Belgian prime minister. This is out of Newsweek. This was actually an exclusive from Newsweek. He's a former Belgian prime minister and current member of the European Parliament, told Newsweek last week. The lawmaker, who has called for the EU to explore imposing a travel ban on Carlson, described Carlson as a, quote, mouthpiece of former President Donald Trump and Putin, adding, quote, as Putin is a war criminal and the EU sanctions all who assist him in that effort, it seems logistical that the External Action Service examine his case as well. As such, any hypothetical sanctions for Carlson may be some way off, even if the move has sufficient support among EU lawmakers and heads of state. Alone, members of the parliament do not have the power to impose sanctions, given the fierce struggles with the council over several rounds of sanctions, including individuals linked to the Kremlin. Adding Carlson to that list would prove a tall order. So Literally, they're trying to say that because he interviewed Putin, because of this 2-hour interview where he just kind of like lets Putin talk on camera and asks him questions, pushes him on some things, they're saying that he is now apparently a member of the Kremlin worthy of a travel ban. Then where, Barbara Walters, God rest her soul, but if she was still alive, would she be on that list? Chris Wallace, is he on that list? The many people, I mean, there was journalists that interviewed Osama bin Laden. There are journalists that have interviewed some terrible, terrible people. Would they be on that list? No. It is simply because Tucker Carlson will not push the narrative of the leftist progressives and elites that are in charge of the mainstream media. That's the problem. So much so, in fact, that because Tucker Carlson, who also wanted to interview President Zelensky, will now be denied that, but along with that, it will also be, Tucker Carlson has also been put on a kill list. True story. And this might get me blocked on YouTube, so everybody make sure that you like, subscribe, and share and everything like that. But earlier this week, it went viral, a picture of a Ukrainian website that seemed to show Tucker Carlson being added to a hit list. A foreign government has apparently threatened to assassinate a U.S. citizen, and Biden is giving them money. And then there was a reader's added context to this on Twitter that said the list is not made by Ukraine, nor is it a kill list, but a private NGO's list of Russian assets. The screenshot has also been digitally altered, apparently. That's what it claims. That's what the added context would claim. However, Ian Miles Chung, who is a internet journalist, says contrary to this note, it is a kill list. The front page is littered with images of dead Russians and the word liquidated over their profiles. Several high-profile persons, including Russian bloggers and Alexander Dugin's daughter, were placed on this list before being assassinated. So, while it might not necessarily be explicitly stated hit list on it, it would seem as though a lot of the people that get placed on this wind up dead. And Tucker Carlson has been placed on it as the false narrative that he's a Russian asset gets spread around. Absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Oh my gosh. I've gone through a lot today, everybody. And I have more. I have more. I do. You know what I'm going to do, everybody, is I'm going to go live tomorrow night. Tomorrow's Monday, February 12th, because I know that we are coming up on, we're coming up on the Super Bowl very soon here. Very, very soon. The Super Bowl will be coming onto our TVs. People will be watching that. Tomorrow night, I'm going to compile a list of some different advertisements from the Super Bowl. I am also going to have a few more stories, including woke kindergarten and J.K. Rowling, who has been in the news, especially in the last few years, about being quote unquote transphobic. Transphobic. J.K. Rowling is apparently a transphobe. There's a new viral tweet and video as to questioning as to whether or not that's actually true. We all know it's not, but we're going to talk about those things tomorrow night. Woke kindergarten, J.K. Rowling, and the advertisements from the Super Bowl, and anything else that I might find in the meantime. And make sure that you guys, if you guys want to send me anything that you want me to react to, talk about, make sure you send it to that email. I will check that email before I go live tomorrow night and add it to my list of things to talk about. speechlesskp@gmail. I'd love to see if there's anything else. I'll go tomorrow night, probably around 6 o'clock, 6:30 tomorrow evening. I will be going live. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Let's check through some of the comments here before I log off. I see there's a question about the Super Bowl pick from Oklahoma Chicken Cam and David. I got to be honest. I don't like Taylor Swift, along with the fact that I don't like when there's the same team that wins all the time. I hated it with the Patriots. I hate it with the Chiefs. But I also don't really like anything about San Francisco or California in general. So I don't really know who to root for in this game. Part of me would say the Chiefs because their name seems like something that should have been canceled by the left already, but somehow has been able to escape that. So maybe the Chiefs. But then again, I just kind of can't stand Pfizer, Mr. Pfizer, or Taylor. So maybe the 49ers. I don't know. I don't know. If I'm going to say who I think's going to win, I'm going to say I think it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Who do I want to win? No one. Me. I'll bet on the game. And I will put $5 that it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll put $5 on the Kansas City Chiefs. And so that's what I'm going to bet on. And that'll be my pick. I think that they're going to win. And because I put money on it, I want myself to win. And so that's who I want to win. So let's say the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't really care though. Who do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate it. Enjoy the Super Bowl, everybody. If there's a woke commercial that you think I should react to, make sure to send it to my email. Send me the article about it because maybe I miss it. Maybe I'm grabbing another beer or something while it's on. Make sure to send it to my email. I'd really appreciate it, guys. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Enjoy your time. No matter if you guys are watching now or you're watching later, make sure to post a comment on the real comments. Share this with your friends so that this gets put up in the algorithm, everything like that. God bless you guys. God bless America. And until next time, you've been watching Speechless.